All right, we are here, Thrive Well podcast. As you can see, we're in our new studio at headquarters in Troy. Guest today is a very special guest, near and dear to my heart, my husband, Justin Woodbeck, who is also
So happy to be here.
Happy
to be here.
Let's try that whole thing again. Okay.
You were doing good. You kept rolling with it.
So happy.
Do you want me to just shut up?
Yes.
Okay.
And when I end, you can be like, I'm so happy to be here. Thank We're here today with one of my favorite people on this entire earth, Justin Woodbeck, my husband and business partner. So thank you. Thanks for joining today.
Thank you. Super excited to be here.
All right. I want to start with a simple one that I think you've probably thought about. If we were to have organized, a Thrive Office Olympics, what category would you dominate in?
Any of the shooting sports, I think. I do have a few people that would
like
be
murder shooting, hunting, target shooting. What are we
What
talking?
Olympics are you watching?
Oh, I don't know. I went
Things
to
like
survival.
archery, and there's actually, I don't even know what it's called. This part I wouldn't be dominant in, where they're on cross country skis and they have rifles.
I didn't know that existed.
Mm-hmm.
Seems silly.
Right. So, I do have some competition here because we got some pretty avid shooters here.
We do. Darren. Connor, right?
Joe shoots, but I could blow them all out of the water. Pun intended.
All right. Pun intended.
Yeah.
Okay. So in all seriousness, you are my husband and we own this brokerage called Thrive Realty Co. together. We started as realtors and that moved into saying, hey, we need to share this with so many more people. I think it could change people's lives. And that's what we wanted. And so we built the Woodbeck team that morphed into Thrive Realty Co. eventually. And a lot of years, a lot of blood, sweat, and tears have gone into it. And so when you think about what your favorite part about helping build Thrive among all the other brilliant and talented people that we've been so fortunate to be in business with, what would that be?
My favorite part of this journey is it has to be, throughout this journey, people have come and gone. They've come into our world, they've gone out. And quite frankly, if we're doing our job right, we're the space for that person to grow. And sometimes that growth takes them out of the industry. Sometimes it takes them different places. But being able to see the trajectory of people from when they came in to where they are now, and knowing that we actually had a hand in that growth and that opportunity is just really cool.
Mm.
Some of the things that some of our agents are doing inside this brokerage from where they started to now is absolutely incredible. We have agents that came into this industry with the only hope of being able to eventually get their own place, for the first time ever.
Staffed.
And having a thought process of it was going to take years. And when they lean in and do the work, we're able to make that happen in a matter of months for them. Or people that come in dual career with the aspiration of eventually owning their own time like we did and wanting to become a realtor full time, and helping them make that transition in a manner in which they didn't even think was possible and on a timeline they thought was unfathomable. To be able to be a part of those types of stories is probably one of the coolest things.
When you think about changing people's lives, having a big part, a small part in that transformation for folks, what do you think around this saying? We've heard it time and time again. There's memes, there's posts all over social media. Discipline equals freedom.
Well, I think the first thing I think of when I think of Jocko yelling that at me or something like that is there's no such thing as a free meal. It is impossible. And we actually touched on this at team meeting earlier. It's impossible to go from start to success. It doesn't happen that way. You have to actually do the work along the way. There's no avoiding it. There's no circumventing it. And there's no shortcuts in the end. And so the more disciplined you can be around the consistency and employ consistency into your world on the things that are going to get you there, the faster you're going to be able to get there.
And do you think, you mentioned like from start to success, do you think success, and this is like a real question I have for you, do you think success is somewhere you get and then you're there and you made it and that's it? Or because I think along the way, you and I were naive enough to think that was true. Like, you get there and when we're there, it's going to be so great. And in this journey of growth and failure and heartache and growth and failure and heartache and growth and failure and heartache, I now have a different opinion around success. So is success a destination that you get to and you're good, or is it this kind of forever action?
It's a great question. So I guess I've never really thought about that. I think you have to separate success and goals. A lot of times they're intertwined, but a goal can be accomplished. I don't think success can be mastered. I think success is defined, number one, it's individually, subjectively, the person defining it gets to choose. And it is a measure of where you're at in that moment. Success might be in one moment where I just want to simply be able to control my time and make an income in which I can support my family. And when you accomplish that, you succeed. But I think the definition of success as a human being grows through exploration and exposure to the world around them, it's going to change. And I think about that from
like, are we talking evolution of the person changes, their thought process changes, their kind of goal lines, their start lines change?
That happened with us. I mean, we literally started in this industry to just simply own our time and not be beholden to somebody else's schedule if we needed to be. And
I think there was a naivete to that too. Like, I think, that was fresh off traditional pathway of you're leaving corporate America. You don't want to work for the man, it's like one of those. And then you think, because you've never experienced, well, I'm going to go work for myself because then I own my own time. I get to do what I want to do. When, let's be honest, like that doesn't exist anywhere. Like, unless maybe you're unemployed and you like don't do anything.
Yep.
But truly, if you're after success as a pathway that you're on, you're after full action of my life is going to be full. I'm going to achieve and accomplish and become. You are not subject to not doing anything and being able to choose your time as you please. Like,
whether you do a 9 to 5 routine like a lot of people do, or you are an entrepreneur and you're strictly dependent on yourself to generate the income that you're going to receive, the work has to be done. It's just in the 9 to 5, you're told when to do it, how to do it, where to do it. Whereas when you become an entrepreneur, you're not told what to do. Sometimes you might get lucky and you enter an organization like this where the path is clearly laid out for you. But a lot of times it's you figure it out as you go along. You do get to choose where you do the work and when you do it. But there's the one thing that is true that most people forget is the work has to be done. And it's when you don't do the work. And that is why there's an 82% failure rate in this industry in year 2. By the time we end that second year run, 8 out of 10 agents are no longer here. It's because they get that twisted. They end up thinking, oh, okay, now I have all this freedom and I can do whatever I want. I can go golf during the day. I can go meet up with my girlfriends. I can go have lunch for 3 hours. While you can do that, if you choose to not replace the work, or if you choose not to still do the work that you have replaced those activities with, you're out. There's an end to that road.
Every race you must replace. Gary Keller. Yep. Never forget when he said that on stage. Ryan and I actually talk about a lot choosing your heart. So I think with what you were just saying, it reminds me of like, what would be the alternative here? Of course, busting through ceilings, continuing the evolution of success is hard. There is no doubt about it. Entrepreneurship is hard. Scaling a business is hard. And on the flip side of that, like there's other hard. So the alternative is hard as well. And I think what Darren had today in his video with Ed Sheeran was phenomenal. Like Ed Sheeran saying, I love making music. I love writing music. What's the alternative here?
Right.
Like,
don't have
just
a plan
keep
B.
going. I love it.
How's it the saying go? The pain of discipline is lighter than the pain of regret.
Yeah.
Pain of discipline weighs ounces. Pain of regret weighs pounds or tons. I'm sure I botched that, but you get the concept.
All right. So here's a couple lighthearted things that I think people want to know about you.
There's probably a lot of
There's so many things. There's so many secrets that I would like you to share with the world.
tons of fans out there.
Yeah, so many. What is a secret talent that no one in your life is aware that you actually have?
Besides you, I don't think I have any secret talents that you're unaware of.
All right.
I used to be a pretty proficient artist and draw. Share a brief story for everybody on that. You know, when we first
We're
started
definitely
dating.
going to be pulling up some of your drawings right now. It's happening.
Okay, we can probably find this exact one. I believe I might know where it's at.
Mhm.
When we first started dating, I didn't make a ton of money, and yet I still wanted to show you how I felt and be able to do all the chivalrous things that gentlemen should do, like buy you flowers and all that stuff. I couldn't do it, but I had time, and so I can still remember sitting up to the wee hours in the morning, drawing you flowers to be able to give you a photo of a flower or a picture of a flower instead of a flower because it didn't cost me anything.
I remember that.
Mhm.
That was so sweet. He then, just so everyone knows, put it in a shadow box and put petals of a flower in that shadow box.
That one
And
was special.
we still have it.
Yeah.
Very crafty,
Yeah.
like truly crafty.
Yep.
Yeah, that is something people don't know about you.
Mhm.
And now our daughter draws.
She draws, and
She is phenomenal.
can't tell you the last time I actually did any kind of drawing at all.
Yeah, you could start doing that with her.
Mhm.
Okay, so if you were a superhero, what would be your kryptonite?
I guess it's a good thing that I can't really think of anything. I truly believe that if given the right circumstance and, you know, the right environment, that there's nothing that I can't overcome. And maybe it's my history. I've literally dealt with just about everything a human being can deal with, and had to figure it out on the spot in a moment's notice, you know.
Do you think your formative years of being a police officer and eventually ending your career as a corporal with Detroit play any significance in your roles today in business?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. The more confrontational something gets, the easier it is for me to actually deal with. And I know that sounds unusual, but it's almost like the more chaotic the world around me gets, the more calm I'm able to actually get. And you've seen this actually play out in action in our life. Like our child will get hurt and be screaming bloody murder or whatever it may be, and the whole house is erupted in chaos, and I'm just simply quiet, calm, assessing, not running around in panic or anything like that. You know, to the point that I'm sure at times you were probably like, do you even care? And that's just the world I lived in. That was my training. It's to not respond with emotion to those things. You respond with assessing and then take a logical approach to solving it.
Yeah, something as recent as we went to an award ceremony. We had a couple of our friends with us. They happened to be here at Thrive too. And we went under an underpass, and there were some silly kids above us that dropped cement chunks, and they were doing it all night.
Yeah,
Clearly there was cement
cars.
everywhere. Yeah. And I have a sunroof on the car, and you were driving, and it was late at night, and it felt like something very bad happened. Like, did we get shot at? No one knew. It was absolutely shocking. Glass everywhere. And you just very calmly were like, someone threw rocks at us, and you did your turnaround. You weren't chaos. You didn't swerve off the road. It was just doing a U-E in the middle of it. You drove immediately within, I think we were at the police station within 2 minutes. You know exactly where that was. We had a report written up, and everyone was cleaned up and looked at. And I thought, gosh, in a situation like that, I would have absolutely swerved off the road. Like, I just think subconsciously, I wouldn't have even been conscious to stay relevant in that situation. Like, almost like, Jesus, take the wheel kind of thing. And you were so calm. So I couldn't agree more. That is a superpower you have. What do you think agents need to be doing more of?
Oh,
right. It's a tough market, right?
Now, yeah. Right now, if you are not mastering your dollar productive activities around lead generation, making those a part of your everyday, you are falling behind every day that you choose not to do that.
Well, what do you think about 60,000 licensees hanging it up? I mean, if that doesn't tell us something.
Yeah. I mean, that is getting close to approaching the rate in which they were pouring into the industry in 2021. So we're seeing a lot of those people leaving again because it's actually getting real this time.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't make lead generation consistently a part of your everyday, your days are numbered. It's that simple. The people that haven't mastered the skill of lead generation will not be here in another year or two.
Yeah. And I think something that is curious about agents today coming off an up market is they forget that lead generation doesn't have to be this age-old boiler room, get in, dial a million dials, call all the strangers in the world, get cussed at, get hung up on. It doesn't have to be that. Although, of course, yes, that's an avenue you can take. And a lot of very successful agents do that. But they can also do other things like social networking. They can do going to networking events. They can get smarter at the conversations they're having at the soccer games, the summer camps, and the holiday events that they're doing, right? We talk about that a lot. What would you say the two avenues an agent should absolutely be taking in their lead generation today?
Well, I think instead of micromanaging what's the best option for them, they need to start with the recognition of what is the purpose behind lead generation. Ultimately, the goal behind lead generation is to put yourself in a position of being top of mind with that consumer in the moment that they're getting ready to make the decision to buy or sell, period. That's it. And so if you know that, then the avenue to get there becomes a little bit more malleable. It can be whatever that person wants it to be. And it's based off of what they're good at and they're going to be consistent with. So we have an agent here who's our top producer this month.
Hey, Darren Fenley.
His niche is open houses. It's anything that gets him in front of a person face to face, belly to belly.
Yeah, he's an excellent conversationalist.
Pre-pandemic, he used to actually intentionally, we used to give him a hard time because he would go to a local bar or restaurant that had a bar and sit at the bar and eat his lunch. Because other people would be coming and going, he'd just strike up conversation or talk to the bartender, and he would actually generate business consistently based off of that activity. Yeah. And so he applies it in open houses now. And so really it's just whatever is going to get you that result that you're looking for, putting you in a position of being top of mind with that consumer, and you're going to do consistently. Those are the two keys that must happen.
That's it. I think the number one place all agents should be spending time in is open houses. If you are not doing 2 to 3 open houses a week, you are missing out on massive opportunity. You have to go where the gap is in the industry. And what does the consumer want most? They want inside. Like there's not enough for them to look at. So they are coming in droves.
Can we please stop this trend in this industry with the 1 to 2 hour open houses that I'm seeing going on? Like, if you're getting ready and you're going to go through and do an open house effectively, make it for 3 or 4 hours. Understand that you can do more than one open house in a weekend on a house and still get it an effective result. I had a listing that we just put on the market, and I had several agents here at Thrive do open houses. There was one Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, and not a single one of those open houses had less than 60 people walk through it. And so for whatever reason, I don't know if it's because open houses haven't really been needed, and they weren't necessarily needed to attract new buyer clients, that agents, when they did have to do them, they're literally only doing them for an hour or two.
Yeah.
I actually saw a noon to 1 open house not that long ago. Blows my mind.
Yeah, that was appeasing a seller. That's what that agent was doing.
Right.
Just missing the mark on what the actual purpose could be of the open house in today's marketplace.
Nobody goes all the way anymore. Nobody door knocks them anymore. You got to bring all those things back.
Oh, level it up. All right. What do you want people to remember you as? Well, it feels a little gruesome, but we always work in ways of like, hey, what kind of legacy are we leaving? Are we leaving one at all?
To be able to say that I made an impact on them, that I was a contributor in their life in some capacity, whether that be through directly helping them or just simply educating them to the point that they now see things differently. Being able to pour into other people is something I'm very passionate about. I'm passionate about helping educate people, whether it be agents or consumers. And I would love, when I'm gone, for that to be the message.
I think this is a good question to ask you live on air, because we get asked this individually. We get asked it a lot in person. I think especially when people meet us for the first time and see the dynamic and understand what we do for a living. What is it like for you? And be absolutely honest with me right now into my eyes, working with your wife in the capacity that we do work, right? Like I run the operational side of this business. You've been on the back end for the last couple of years. You're now stepping back into directing the sales force, which I know is near and dear to your heart. What's that like?
Was it Oasis that said it's a bittersweet symphony? Um, it's one of the coolest things that I've ever been through and one of the most challenging things I've ever been through. And I think we got it wrong for a while before we finally got it right. And we've talked about that a lot. But I can't say that some of the things that I've experienced in this industry, I can't say that I would have necessarily responded to them or rose to the challenge in the same manner that I did if you were not also tied to this. And I don't know if it's just simply because you're physically present and I can see like, hey, this is an immediate impact to my wife first, my family second, the people in our world third, if I don't rise and perform in the manner in which it needs to be. Because if without you here, it's just simply, this is an immediate impact to the people that I'm seeing that I work with, and that's also going to impact my family. It almost forces me to reverse the recognition of impact on anything I do or don't do, where it's you, kids, and then work. So that dynamic, I think, has been really beneficial for me. It's caused me to have to grow in ways that I can't necessarily say I would have grown at the same rate had you not been here.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting prioritization because you skipped the number one, which I already know whom that is to you. It's yourself, right? And I feel the same way. And then two is your spouse, me, and our kids are third, and then business is fourth on that list. What can you share with people that came with that realization? Because we didn't always operate that way. That was something that we were taught, and it was suggested that we kind of review our priorities as a couple, as business owners, and get it right. And this methodology lends to our complete thought process on how to live a thriving life. So what can you share about it?
In regard to, am I speaking to somebody who's in that position as working spouse?
Why prioritize that way? Like, why prioritize your spouse?
Yeah.
Because I would say, especially here in America, like it's almost ass backwards, right? Most people prioritize work, and then it's their family, and then it's their marriage, and
they're
then it's
far down the list.
They're the last one on the list. Yeah.
Well, and I didn't address that when I mentioned that prioritization, because that in our world, that's obvious. It's me first, it's you first, depending on who's talking. And it has to be that way, because if I don't put myself first, if I don't put my mental and physical health and make that a priority above everything.
I think he's stroking out.
I think I'm having a
stroke. Started like 5 minutes ago.
I'm struggling, but I'm
take a sip of water. Let's
giving it my all.
Again.
So the reason why it is me first, my mental health and my physical health are a priority over everything, including our relationship. Because if I don't do that, if I don't make those things number one in the order, everything else will break down eventually. It is a certainty that the other components in life, yours and my relationship with our children, my role here, and the relationship with everybody under the roof at Thrive, those things will suffer if I'm silently suffering. And that's what a lot of people ultimately end up getting wrong. They feel guilty about putting themselves first, especially parents, but people that are very dedicated to their work, they feel guilty putting themselves first and not work, because they think that that's a direct reflection on them. But what they don't realize is if you get it right here and in your body, you can show up 10 times stronger in every one of those channels and give those other channels, like your relationships and your work, more effort than you ever could have had you not prioritized yourself.
Well, it reminds me, it's a concept that we definitely follow, which is, I think it's, who is it? Darren, who wrote the book Compound Effect? Darren Hardy. So it's Darren Hardy's work on compound effect. What is the one thing that by doing and honoring makes everything else easier or unnecessary? And when you honor yourself and you fill your cup and you're full of energy and full of endurance and your brain works better, your body moves faster, everything else becomes easier or unnecessary.
Yeah.
You know, just like you were talking about, the strength of your relationships is better. What you can give back to others is better. The work you do is more intelligent and faster, stronger. So I love that. I hope that helps people because that was a game changer for us when we moved to that direction.
Yeah. Not looking to correct her because I don't normally get to do this when it comes to books, but that was actually Gary Keller, the one thing.
No, I mean, Gary Keller took it from Compound Effect.
No.
Yes, he did. Gary Keller has told many people all of the things that he has repackaged.
Well, I guess phrased that way is straight out of the one thing.
Successful people.
What's the one thing that if you were to master?
Thus by doing, don't make me correct you.
Thus by doing makes everything else easier or unnecessary.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's the one thing, but Darren Hardy wrote it first in the Compound Effect. Who knows where he got it from?
Right. Who knows?
Anyway. All right. So something we do here is agent attraction. And there's no doubt about it. All real estate companies recruit. And we take it fairly seriously that we truly are looking to put people on the best pathway to serve them. And oftentimes the folks that we sit down with are not a great fit for us and we're not a great fit for them. And we're totally cool with that. I know that defies the model of real estate from a sales team and brokerage model. Yeah.
Oh, you're alive. You have a license. Come on aboard.
Yeah. Most people work that way. And it is a business model and it does work. It's not in favor of the agent, but it does work. So being that we do things a little bit differently here, we go through an interview process, we really look to sync up and make sure it's a good fit. What would you say you see is a pattern in people joining Thrive? What do they go through once they're here? Do you see a pattern in agents joining here in this marketplace?
I do. And it's not really necessarily even dependent on the marketplace right now. The pattern, if I were to view everybody that comes to mind that has joined Thrive since the beginning, the one common thing that they all have is a desire to see change. In some capacity. They apply at different places. It might be, hey, I just want to be around more optimistic, positive people, because my work environment.
I mean, don't you think anybody choosing something new is looking for change?
No, not necessarily. Sometimes they're just simply looking for more, more of the same.
I don't know if I agree with that. I think anybody, and especially in this industry, but in general, making a choice to do something different is looking for change. More would be a change.
Yeah.
Less would be a change. Better would be a change.
But let me use the example of you have your average agent at your typical big box brokerage, and they're just going throughout their day, barely surviving like most agents do. When they make the decision to leave there and try and go to, let's say, a lead-based company, they're just simply looking for more opportunity within the same environment. They're not actually expecting or wanting to do more work for that opportunity. They're just simply looking for more result. Whereas the people that come here want to put in the work and they want to see evolution. They want to see actual, meaningful, impactful change in their life. Physically, mentally, professionally, spiritually, everything. They are actually looking for, and I guess instead of change, evolution is the right word to use. That is the difference. We're not just simply a change of environment, or I'd like to simply do something slightly different. I want to have an overhaul of my current situation. That is what most people end up looking for. And a lot of times they're not in the place they want to be. They're, either mentally bogged down. They're not making what they want to make financially. It's any number of things that are currently not fitting with where they're at right now. And they look at the Thrive and our approach to betterment and improvement of the person as a whole as something that they are ready to do the work and buy into.
Okay. The end on that. Yeah. I mean, I do agree. I think people coming to Thrive are looking for that wholeness of saying, like, I know I've got some missing components here in what life could be. Part of it is my career. Part of it is community. Part of it is I'm looking for accountability. I know it's over there. So yeah, total agreement.
We've become so well known for that evolution that how many times have you heard agents say, I would love to come to Thrive, but I don't think I can cut it.
Yeah. It is one of the most repeated things out of people's mouths. Yeah. And I think to clear the air on that, while we definitely have a standard of production that we're going to say is fairly reasonable and simple to achieve in this industry if you want to be a full-time agent, without a doubt. It's what we're comfortable saying. That person makes X amount of money. That's a fair income in Southeast Michigan.
Yeah.
However, the idea that you don't have what it takes to cut it here, like as if we're
we never set the benchmark. We don't set the bar of achievement for the people that are coming.
It is relative.
Here. And I think that's maybe the misconception is like, I don't think I have what it takes to do what they're doing over there. And that's not true, because you're the one that determines what that is.
Yeah. We have a baseline.
Of course.
Which should be your baseline as a average agent in the industry.
We just help people when they come through the door identify what they want to see show up in their life, lay out the game plan of exactly how to get there, and actually then care enough to look and inspect and see, hey, I noticed that you said you wanted to see X, Y, and Z show up in your life over the next 6 months. And we said that in order to do that, we discovered together it was going to take these activities being done consistently. And I know that you haven't been doing that recently. Has your goal changed? Mm-hmm. Something as simple as that, taking the time to notice that performance is lacking. So caring enough to find out what changed.
Having the balls to have the conversation, right? I mean, that's a missing component for a lot of people, because it does take caring. It's not hounding somebody on why didn't you call the lead?
Yeah. Yeah.
Why aren't you showing up for you is a totally different combo.
Correct.
I love you. I'm going to ask you a question that I think more people should be talking about.
Okay.
It's a hard marketplace.
Yes.
It's a interesting and challenging time in the world, I would say, coming out of a pandemic into a recession, inflation. A lot of things are happening personally for mankind, I would say. There's been no shortage of divorces happening, changing of careers to find happiness and thinking that's the reason. What do you think of this whole chapter of silently quitting? I remember when I first heard this, and I was on social media, and I was like, what? And I think it was the guy from Shark Tank. Mm-hmm. I remember he got on and he started blasting silently quitting.
People not wanting to do the work.
He was like, if you're not going to work 60 hours a week for me, like, F that silently quitting, don't even come here. And I thought, oh my gosh, wow, like so aggressive, first of all.
Yeah.
It's Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank. So, I mean, we know what to expect from him, but that's who I heard it from first. And then I started doing some research. So
I think it's all born out of, there are many great things that technology and social media have brought into our world, the ability to reconnect with people you haven't seen in years. But there are just as many downsides to it as well. And unfortunately, most social media out there is just simply a filter, or it's a highlight reel, or it's completely fictitious in terms of what you see. And it creates this automatic
psychological warfare
comparison that, and the other thing it does is it gives a false sense of confidence to people as well, because now everybody's a guru in everything. You can pick any category and you can find quote unquote influencers in that category that oftentimes didn't even do what they're trying to sell. Mm-hmm. And so there's this perception that success is supposed to arrive sooner than it is.
It lacks integrity. Right? Everyone became a coach all of a sudden. It's like, well, what caused you to earn that opportunity to then give back to people and help them achieve? Right? And behind a lot of that is smoke and mirrors. Mm-hmm. So whatever that may be, whether it's coaching or, being a social media expert or a speaker expert, or if you can hit it on social, all of a sudden you can monetize it, but you never really achieved it yourself. And I think that is the scary part. But what does that have to do with silently quitting?
So getting to that point, basically everything appears to happen a lot easier in that content of social media than it actually does in real life. And so when people are out there in real life and experiencing the actual work that has to go into building success, it takes years and years and years. We've been doing this, now almost 15 years. It takes years to eventually grow into the success that you're envisioning and you're seeing other people get. And although they tell you on social media that it can happen in 2 months, that's not the reality. And so when people are actually experiencing it in real life, and they get discouraged because it's actually harder in real life than it is on social, they tend to just simply want to quit because they want to force it to happen. And when that doesn't happen, they just simply say, well, then I'm just going to silently quit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I find it so interesting because we run the gamut in age groups for our children, right? 19 down to 6.
Mm-hmm.
And so we get some insights that I think are unique because dealing with a young adult and being into the workforce now and seeing the mentality that he has based on what he has access to online has definitely shifted what I believe is the work ethic within our younger generation. But it is inexplainable unless you insert social media still to older adults because it's happening with them. I'm seeing it happen with people in their 30s. And you and I talk as if we're almost 60, 70 years old. Like, gosh, could you fathom acting that way when you worked at DPD or when I worked at General Motors? And so I find this whole pocket we're in right now with this stuff to be really interesting and wondering where you think it'll go. Where do you think it'll end up?
I have no idea, but I do struggle with that because a lot of times I feel like I'm back in my day.
Right. And it's old. It's like you're almost too young to say that.
Right.
It makes you feel strange.
But I did start noticing a shift in
almost too young
in work ethic and, just focus and dedication in the workforce back in early 2010s.
Yep. I remember you talking about that.
It just
young people
in
you
that
were training.
I was training new police officers and I had been for years. So I had a lot of exposure to a lot of different people. And it was like all of a sudden you started to see things change.
Mm-hmm.
People would start calling off in an environment that you never call off. When you're in the academy, you do not take a sick day. It does not matter how sick you are. It doesn't matter what your circumstances are. You could have been in an accident. You better be there on time.
Because that was boot camp, right?
I used to get up and leave the house by 4 a.m., even though I didn't have to be there until 7:45 because there was a chance that it could snow, and I lived an hour away. And so as a 20-year-old, I wasn't willing to risk potentially being late. And so I would do whatever I had to do to make sure I was on time every day, prepared every day, and never, ever called in sick. And it's not that I wasn't sick. I just would never show it. And I would never act upon that. And that has definitely changed. Like I started seeing people that would call off because it's a nice day.
So what can you say today as a father of 3, a father of a young adult, a man that runs a business with young adults within it, and just, people that work within it from staff to agents? What would you say today from your exposure to that could help people maybe shift a mindset, see it from a different perspective?
The only thing that they really need to understand is what they're missing by not living that way. There is something to be said about the pride of a hard day's work. There's something to be said about the emotional joy and fulfillment that you receive when you did something hard that you didn't think that you could, and you did it. That's how you build confidence. Human beings gain self-confidence and competence through exposure to hard things. And our world by design is removing those hard things from our everyday life faster than we can possibly find other ways to do it. And you and I obviously took the family and traveled a lot during the pandemic. When we were shut down, we'd go to little farms here and there. And I remember we just got in the RV one time and drove down to Kentucky, and we ended up at this little horse farm down there. And we were talking to the guy, and he used to have other high school kids in the area. The parents would literally drop their kids off and they would work there all summer for free, and it would completely change their kids' lives, because they're doing hard things, manual labor every single day, not on a screen, not tied to a TV or the internet, and they were engaging with actual life every day, and it changed the context of their world. And that doesn't happen often anymore.
Right. Yeah, hard is almost shied away from now, right? Hard is, okay, we should quit and go try and find something that's
down on even
easy, right? Yeah. It's not seen as a challenge anymore. Right. It's seen as something bad. That reminds me, I was on a mastermind once and we're waiting for the speaker to show up. And there's probably 100 of us on this Zoom. It was during the pandemic. And this guy comes on, he's a multimillionaire. I mean, he has his own jet. He's got probably dozens and dozens of businesses, hands in all different types of things. And he came from a very hard knock life. Like he was in jail. He made no bones about it. He speaks very freely of this. And he was late to this mastermind. And when he finally got on, he said, sorry, I was running a little late. I was on the farm. And so the host of it said, well, share with us. He goes, well, if you ever want to know how easy your life is, go to a farm and work it. Get on a tractor and do a hard day's work like a farmer would, and you will have a different perspective. He's like, so I do this once a month, no matter what's on my calendar. I make sure that I go do this hard day's work, physical labor, so that when I think my day is hard and sitting on my sweet computer having to write copy, or, an employee goes rogue or whatever, that I'm just simply reminded like, hey, this is nowhere near tough. Buck up.
And like I said, our society is actually pushing people away from that type of work environment. I mean, you look at the trades in this country, electricians, plumbers, builders, framers, anybody that falls under a skilled trade, that industry is disappearing way more rapidly than I think anybody even notices. There was just a study that came out. For every 7 people in that industry that retire, only 1 enters it right now. And then on top of that, the average age of a contractor, and they're using all contractor industries, so any skilled labor at all in this study, the average age in the last 5 years has increased by 12 years.
Wow.
It went from, I think it was like 48 to like 60.
Yeah. Well, it's those generations not wanting to take it over, right? I mean, we're experiencing this. I mean, we're not hard labor here, but we're even experiencing it with our own children. Like, our oldest son right now has no desire to get involved in our business. And we're like, what?
Right.
That was the whole plan.
Right.
So yeah, and he wants to do these kind of fast things and wants to get into something that might be a little easier and doesn't want to have to earn his way there. And he is learning quickly, which is beautiful. Like he has a job, he's earning his way at that job. But it took a minute to get there.
It's funny, and he's obviously a great kid and great at what he does when he applies himself. But to hear how many times did he come home and be like, well, I don't want to work there because that's entry level.
Right.
That's entry level.
And we're like, you are entry level.
You're 18.
Yes.
That's exactly
you got to go earn your way. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So in that's what I mean. Like he's gotten past that and he's gone and gotten a job where he has to work his way up, which is wonderful. But fascinating that we even start there, because that is where you and I are like, back in our day.
It's a lot of the youth in the country.
I was scooping ice cream and we're working for $7 an hour. What are you talking about?
I don't know. I was mowing lawns at 12, babysitting at 10. By the time I was 13, I had my first official job as a caddy. I used to ride my bike 5 miles one direction in the dark up to the golf course so I could be there by 6 a.m.
Yeah.
Can't even fathom that stuff happening with youth today.
I know. They don't even want to walk home.
Right. Look at the difference in opportunity that comes, the way
With
of
that.
a person like that. Person that's willing to do the work, that's willing to open their eyes to challenging things. Those are the keys that open the doors.
For sure. Just like Darren talked about today, like proximity is everything.
Right.
Right. I come into the office because I know it's smart, but also like good things happen when you do that. When you're in proximity, someone can't go on an appointment, you get the appointment or whatever that may be. I mean, power of proximity has been relative since humans took over Earth. So.